I think like always be open, always experiment and be willing to make mistakes and be willing to just jump in and do it. Of course, people have fear of failure, fear of not doing the best work you can. But you have to fight that fear. You have to push through it. And on the other side, it could be good, it could be bad. You never know, but at least you did it. Otherwise, you really get stalled. And that's with everything in life, I think, not only photography. It's just a life lesson too.
Hey, photo friends, Raymond here, and welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast, where every Tuesday I drop a brand new episode to help you capture better photos by learning from the world's most creative photographers. And here on Thursdays, I share a rewind episode, a past conversation handpicked because it is just as valuable today as when it was first released. So whether you're brand new or you're revisiting with fresh ears, this one is packed with timeless photo wisdom to help you grow behind the lens. And in today's Rewind episode, we are talking with fine art photographer Dina Goldstein about using a camera to hold up a mirror to society. But first, the Beginner Photography Podcast is brought to you by CloudSpot. With CloudSpot, you can sell your photos through prints, products, and of course, digitals. You can set up a storefront in minutes and start earning more with every gallery you send. So grab your free account over at deliverphotos.com and only upgrade when you are ready. Today's guest, Dina Goldstein, has really created an interesting body of work. She creates images that, well, you can't help but look at. Images that are surreal, but not to the point of fantasy. Like they're believable, yet undeniably it's a narrative. But at their core, her images make you think. They think about the decisions that you make in your own life. They make you think about the things that we look past in society. And they make you think about what actions you can take to be the change that you want to see in the world. And as a photographer, what more could you want out of the images that you create? And today, that's exactly what she's going to share with you. So with that, let's go ahead and get on into today's Rewind interview. Dina, after 30 years of being in the photography world, you've created quite a name for yourself as a photographer. You've produced both inspirational images and also controversial images. I want to know that from your earliest days, did you know, like when you were a child, did you know that photography was going to be something that was going to play a big role in your life? Or is this something that you discovered along the way?
Well, I definitely didn't know when I was a child, but I did know that I saw things differently. And like, for instance, I saw colors more than my friends. I don't have an explanation for it, but I'd always be in wonder of any of things, or maybe I saw things that other people didn't see. And when my friends came over, I'd turn on different lights for some reason, now that I think back at it, to make the place look nice. So I turn on that light and that light and that light. So just little things that I did, or maybe the way that I saw the world. That's the only connection that I have to it. I wanted to be an actor, and I was a theater brat. And I thought that I was going to end up doing that. But when I was about 20, I ended up going to Dahab, which is a little hippie resort in the Sinai. And I ended up taking like a little point and shoot camera, and I met all these amazing people and I took pictures. And when I came back, I developed the film, and it wasn't as great as I wanted it to be or expected it to be. And I was really upset about it. So I decided to take a photography course, and that just paved the way because I fell in love with it. And I never left the house without my camera. From that day on, I just always had my camera with me.
So what was it, you get these photos back, and I'll be honest, I guess right now with it being spring, for me personally, it's like lawn care. Like I really want to have a nice lawn, which is ridiculous, but I want it to look nice. And then inevitably dandelions come popping up, and it never turns out the way that I want it to.
Yes.
And there's a certain subset of people that would get discouraged and just say, well, this isn't for me. And then obviously there's you, who you see these photos from a cheap plastic disposable camera. What was it that you were thinking that made you decide, like, wait, there's something here that if I studied this, I can make a real go at this, more so than what you were following, which was acting at the time?
It was that everything was so beautiful there and the people were so beautiful. And I had this experience, but it didn't really come back to me on my film, like you said. So I wanted to learn. I wanted to be better. I think this is something about me. It's inherent. I just want to be really good at what I do, if I do it.
Is that with all aspects of your life, do you find? Is that, you think that's who you are in everything that you do, or does something really have to click with you?
Well, I mean, I make a lot of mistakes because I try and I try and I try again and again and again. So I'm not afraid of making mistakes. I just want to maybe figure things out or work things out that I don't understand. And photography kept on giving that back to me, like just more to learn, more to understand, more to evolve. And maybe that's kind of why I fell in love with it. Also, because I mean, I love treasure hunting. And I find that photography helped me with that. It was like picking through the negatives and finding that perfect, that little treasure, that one really good image.
I would imagine that, especially after, while you're in the learning process and trying to uncover how this camera works, yeah, finding that one photo is like a treasure hunt. It does feel great.
It's very magical.
Yeah.
I mean, and remember, I started out with film, so it wasn't instant like it is today. So you would have to wait to get your film back and then kind of discover what's on the roll and cross your fingers that everything went really well. So it was harder. It wasn't like it is today. It was not an instant culture.
You mentioned earlier that you're not afraid to make mistakes, that you've made thousands of mistakes.
Yes, many.
Can you think of one mistake that you made early on, maybe when it came to photography, that you really struggled with? And was there a breakthrough with that?
I don't think it was like one particular moment. I think it's like a whole bunch of little things that luckily I made those mistakes before the important moments. So if I was photographing somebody, if I had like a portrait shoot, let's say, the day before I would kind of play around and figure things out and make my mistakes then and not wait for the actual shoot to make the mistakes. I mean, things happen, of course, oh my gosh, on the set that are unexpected, of course, but most of my mistakes and learning happens in the practice, within the practice.
Would you be willing to share maybe, like, okay, so I'm sure that people are listening right now thinking, wait, I have a engagement shoot or I have a portrait session this weekend. Would you be willing to share maybe a form of practice or something that they can do to better prepare themselves?
Okay, for instance, I did photograph a lot of weddings. I photographed weddings, bar mitzvahs, anything. At the beginning of my career, I really did not discriminate between jobs. So I photographed food, people, things, cars, you name it, everything. And I mean, early on, I realized that there were a few things that I needed to do to be better at it. I spent countless days shooting weddings, sweating, when I really should have had like someone there, an assistant helping me with my equipment instead of like dragging my equipment. And, you know, at the beginning too, they wanted you to do video and photography at the same time.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother set. That's a whole
Oh yes. I mean, I'm talking about the 90s. That's when I did this.
No all-in-one photo video camera at that time.
Yeah. And then, you know, a lot of things that kind of went wrong with like syncing flashes and outdoors and things not connecting properly, stuff like that. Stuff like that. Also, like how to engage with people during these events, like what your mood should be, almost like a waitress. Like I did some waitressing. And when you go up to a table, you kind of like have to gauge what their mood is, and like how friendly you're going to be. Maybe these people don't want to talk, maybe they want to just be together. And you kind of have to gauge that with families and people when you're working with people. So stuff like that. If you're looking for like a big mess up, I have a really funny story.
I'm all ears.
If you want a really big mess up. Okay. But I don't know how much my fault this was, but I was hired to photograph Jackie Chan. Do you know the Chinese actor?
Of course.
And, yes. And martial arts practitioner. And so we had to fly to Berlin. We had to fly to Berlin to photograph him because he was making a movie. So we flew over there, and I had like literally maybe 2 hours with him, I think. And I brought all my equipment, I brought my lights, everything. The night before, we tested the lights at the hotel, and I had bought this whole mechanism because they have the voltage is different in Europe from North America. We did the test at the hotel, and all the lights blew. All my strobes blew.
Oh, no.
It exploded, basically exploded. So it was Sunday in Germany. Everything is closed. Everything.
Oh, no.
I mean, I looked for rentals, anybody that I could reach out to. So I had no lights for my shoot. And that was really stressful. But I went downstairs just to calm down, to think, down to the hotel. And there was this photographer with the whole light kit there. Apparently, Berlin Parliament is there. And so there are many photographers photographing members of parliament. And he was one of them. And I told him my situation. I explained everything to him, and he lent me his lights.
Oh my goodness. What are the odds? That is incredible.
I know. So, and also at that point, I was working with a medium format camera with transparencies.
Oh.
And I had to do Polaroid tests.
Yeah.
So I suddenly had to pivot and learn his lights. And this is all like in a matter of little bit of time before Jackie Chan walks in. So it all came together. And then I brought my transparencies to a lab in Berlin that I never worked with them. I don't know. And you're just giving them the work. You're just saying, here you go. Here are the 3 rolls or whatever. And crossing fingers, counting that everything's going to be okay. And of course, if it was today with the digital world, it would be much, much easier.
But did they turn out okay?
Yes, they turned out okay. Everything was fine. It's like white background, not very much time, lights that I don't know. And
oh my goodness.
Somehow it came together and it worked out. But see, even when you try to test everything and be prepared and have everything in line, it's just like life.
Just like,
life
it's just
isn't
life.
Like that. Life just dishes you out a whole bunch of challenges.
Wow, what a story. I can't imagine the amount of stress that I would be feeling in a moment like that, obviously, the fact that you booked the gig, but now having to deal with a high-profile subject in front of the camera, and then just everything falls apart. That is a mess. I'm glad that it worked out, and obviously glad that Parliament just so happened to be in that same hotel at that same time, because what a mess that would have been. Right. Let me ask you a question. If that photographer wasn't down in the lobby,
yes.
What would you have done? Like, because you would have had to have still got something. How would your game plan change?
Would have probably had to take him outside.
Mm-hmm. Would that have been a possibility?
Yeah. I mean, you have to have a plan B.
Yeah.
You have to have a plan B. So it would have been not the way that I imagined it. I imagined it like perfectly exposed images in front of a white background, which happened actually.
Which is what came out. Yeah. Good.
Is what came out. And this was for an ad for a private airplane company. So he was dressed like a pilot with a whole bunch of airline attendants like surrounding him and all that. So there were a lot of people. There wasn't only him. There were like 5 or 6 people in the shot, which also complicated complicates it. It's not like just him. If it's just him, it's way easier. I can take him outside. I can, but they were like commercial images for an ad, and they had to be a certain way. So
you'd have to get that. What's that movie? The Catch Me If You Can. You'd have to get that image, and then that would just have to be it right there. Well, I want to take a step back before we move on from here, because I'm sure the listeners are thinking, "Whoa, we went from photo school or learning photography to now we're photographing Jackie Chan." So, before you started doing, can you tell me how you got into doing commissioned work?
Yes. So when I first started photography, I wanted to be a photojournalist, and I did that for a while. I got a job with a weekly newspaper, and then I did some freelancing for our city newspaper, the Vancouver Sun, and that's what I wanted to do. But I quickly realized that I would have to travel a lot to do that, and go to very serious war-torn areas, dangerous areas. And it's not that I was afraid of that danger. It's that I had met my husband and we got married, and I kind of made a decision at that time, which was the end of the 90s, that editorial photography was probably better for me, because I am good with people. People, I think, feel comfortable with me when I'm photographing them, and sometimes they have fun. So I thought magazine photography is probably a better thing for me. And that's what I went out to do. And I created a portfolio with all the work that I had compiled over that decade, in the 90s. And in the 2000s, basically, I just went into an editorial career and shooting for magazines, doing mostly portrait work.
Can you tell me, like, what's your definition of editorial work? Like, I'm trying to picture in my head, if somebody were to ask, like, well, what's the difference between, like, an editorial photo and, say, like, a portrait, I guess? What would you say to them?
Well, I mean, who are you shooting the portrait for? Are you shooting the portrait for you as an artist? Or are you shooting it for a magazine that has specific requirements? They want an outdoor shot. They want it to be 3/4. They want you to do this or leave space up top for text, or, so I think, like, when you're on assignment for an editorial piece, you're working for them. You're creating a portrait for the publication.
I see. So editorial work is more for businesses, whereas, say, portraits or maybe other, I would say, traditional forms of photography that maybe new photographers are looking to get into are more direct to customers. Would that sound about right?
Are you taking a portrait for the person? Like, what does the person require? Is the person a real estate agent? If the person is a real estate agent, they want a picture against a white background, 3/4, friendly, smiling, doing
big sold sign. Yeah.
So who are you taking the photo for? Are you taking it for yourself as an artist? If so, what would you do if you didn't have these requirements? I usually did what I wanted, but you're also working with an art director. And so it's not solely for yourself. That's how I would distinguish between a portrait that I would take for myself as an art piece, rather than a commission from a publication, because I am working with someone. Also, similarly with advertising, it's the same. So you have an art director, and the art director is kind of, you're there as the vehicle to make their vision come alive.
Okay, I get it. Yes.
So that's the difference between working for yourself, creating work for yourself, and being commissioned, working with an art director and creating something that they need for their purposes.
I see. Okay. So now that you've been doing this for how many years now? How many years would you consider yourself strictly an editorial photographer?
Well, I'm no longer an editorial photographer.
Okay.
Because at the beginning of the 2010s, I quit all of my commercial work and I began to create my own series, and I became a full-time artist.
Yeah. Okay. So then, before we move on to your,
To that era.
yeah, before we move into the 2010s, right there,
Yeah.
let me ask, because I'm sure that there are some people listening right now who are looking to get into editorial
Yes.
photography. So,
Yeah.
if you were to look back at some of your earliest editorial photos, if you can think of one in your head, is there anything that stands out as maybe an amateur mistake or something that is an overarching theme of your photos that you quickly learned to get rid of for better editorial images?
I think you have to go in really humble. Like you can't. I mean, people have this kind of TV character idea of a photographer. You
Uh
come in and you're like, oh, put that there, do that. That and it's really not the way it is because uh, you have to come in. I think it's important to be humble and professional. And when you're working with editorial, you have very little time.
huh.
So you have to be quick on your feet, quick thinking, and quick working because you're photographing people usually that are important people, or else why are you photographing them? I mean, they're going to be in a magazine, they did something, they're high profile people. So they don't have much time. And you just have to be quick and show them that you respect their time, that,
Hmm.
it's that you're professional and that you know what you're doing. Yeah. I
I
mean,
love that.
yeah, with editorial, I'm trying to think of a mistake because you keep on asking me about mistakes.
No, you know what? It's one of those things. So here's one thing that I've heard oftentimes from listeners of the podcast
Okay.
is that when it comes to interviews, I suppose oftentimes I will interview people, photographers like yourself, who have quite a long career, and the photographers who are listening are still in those early days.
Yes.
They've been
Yes.
shooting between 0 and 24 months. Maybe they
Yeah.
still have their first DSLR that they got at Costco or whatever, and they see photographers like yourself and think, I want to get there. How do I get there?
Right.
So when it's time to talk to you,
I have an
I
answer for you.
okay, let's hear it.
When I was at the very beginning of my career, I would whine, oh, I just want to do this. I just want to do this and this. And I had a friend and he just looked me in the eye and he said, just do it. Just go out and do it. That's
Yes.
all. That's all it takes. And you know what? That's all it takes. Is
Yeah.
like, I mean, the thing is, not everyone's going to have the talent for this, right? Like, I want to be a singer, but I'm a horrible singer. And if somebody said, just go do it, I would do it and I would break some windows and it would not be a good scene. But at least I tried it and I gave it a shot.
Yeah.
We only live once. Do it. Just do it. Do it. Now, if you really want to do it and you feel like you want to make it a career, I think that you should make sure that you are good at it, that you have something, that even if it's an early talent, that's something that you can develop, that you have a good eye. Because without that good eye, I don't think it's even worth going forward, like
Right.
no matter how many voice lessons that I have, I couldn't do it because I don't have the natural talent. And it's not something that everyone can do. It's like now that there are digital cameras, and it's something I noticed in the early 2000s that there were digital cameras coming in and people just felt like they could do it. Even art directors, the ones that I was working with, thought, oh, I can do it. I have this camera. I can do it now. And it's just not the case.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because you have the equipment doesn't mean that you have the eye. And you need the eye to be able to become good. You're really good at what you do.
I appreciate you being open and candid there and being honest, because we can all attest to that. We all know somebody who bought the most expensive camera hoping that it was going to take the best photo, and we just know that it doesn't work that way. And I love that one thing that I hear from you is that there has to be tenacity to move forward. You have to be okay with making those mistakes. But then you shared that part right there, which I think is missing from a lot of interviews, which is you still have to have an eye. Like you still have to have something there within you to be
Yeah.
able to cultivate, and that's a real thing. So again, thank you for being
Yeah.
open about that.
And then it's also too, you have to have that eye, and then you have to learn about light and understand light. Like, for instance, if I were to organize a weekend photography course or something, I would just take somebody to the same place the whole day and just like take one object and look at that object. And we could do it at the studio with a strobe, but you could also do it outside with the sun and see how that particular object changes with the light. You have to understand light, you have to see light and feel light and be open to that, to observing, just observing how light affects and changes everything.
Right, of course. Yeah, that's a major aspect of photography that, again, gets lost in the hoping that the camera will just make everything magical, and we know that it doesn't. So again, thank you for that. I want to move on now that we're done with the 2010s. Here you are, here's Dina Goldstein. You are ready to make your mark on the world, and this is when you introduce your series Fallen Princesses. Is that correct?
Yes. So this happened just after the digital revolution. So again, I felt that people were kind of making light of the art of photography, the craft of photography, because making images now became so much easier for people who didn't understand how to use a camera before. Because before digital, you had to understand your shutter speeds and your apertures and light, right? And so in the middle of all that, I thought, you know what, if I'm going to create images, I better create images that nobody else can make.
Okay. So I've heard you on many podcasts before. I have read up on this Fallen Princesses, your collection here. And I know that it started after you found out that your mom was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yes.
And seeing kind of the wonder in your daughter's eye, right? Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yes, so I'm trying to give you a sense of the time within the photography world, like what was going on when I'm describing this digital revolution and me wanting to make pictures and that were different and that nobody else could make. At the same time, my daughter was in play school and my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and the two events kind of collided. And I started to think, because when my daughter came back from school, from daycare, she was suddenly obsessed with Disney princesses. And I thought, where is this from? I mean, it's not coming from our home. So it's obviously something that she's being exposed to at daycare. It's the only other place she's at. And so my mother's illness and then my daughter's interest made me think about things in regards to how pop culture idealizes gender roles and the way that girls are depicted within these Disney books and films. And I just felt like that it was really outdated, and I didn't want my daughter to be enthralled with this at all. So that's what got me thinking. And I started putting the princesses in real life situations with real life challenges, or I tried to do that to discuss important issues.
So obviously many people are listening right now. Maybe they're not in front of a computer. Could you describe a few of the images for me?
Sure. The very first image that I photographed was Rapunzel, and that was directly inspired by my mother's illness. And here we have Rapunzel sitting on a bed in a hospital room attached to chemo medication. And she's got her wig that's braided, very, very long braid, sitting beside her. And she's looking down. It's just a very kind of serene look on her face, I guess. And yeah, so that's one of them. And that's like the first one that I photographed. I later went on to portray Cinderella at a pub, kind of sitting.
After a long day.
Yeah, it's supposed to be kind of like a hidden away bar that nobody would see her at. And she's kind of sitting there with a drink. And of course, she's sad. And I have a whole backstory to why she's sad. And then you've got all these kind of bar goers, pub goers, kind of looking at her, trying to figure out what she's doing there. So I've got Snow White at home in domestic hell.
Yeah.
With a lazy prince.
I'm of course going to put links in the show notes to where
Yeah.
listeners can find more of your images. But I think that you painted a real good picture there, which is like, well, what happens after they grow up? Like, what happens when they enter the real world? What happens when the person who we identified as a child now has to face the things that I have to deal with as an adult? And I think that maybe that's why it became so powerful, is because we do have this idea. I mean, I don't have to tell you why it became powerful, but what I'm trying to get at here is that with photography, like an idea like this, a concept like this takes time. This
Yes.
is not something that you showed up to the pub and you're like, whoa, she's dressed up like Cinderella, let me snap a photo. Like,
Yeah.
there's a production here, right?
Yes. So my methodology completely changed.
Yeah,
So
right.
before it was like me and an assistant going out to photograph someone with like a couple of lights and with very little time. That's kind of like the editorial world. I mean, at one point I was shooting like 3 assignments in one day. It was
Oh my
insane.
goodness. Yeah.
Yes. But this is different. This is like, I can't do it just by myself. I need like a crew. I need a makeup artist. I need an assistant. I need someone to help put up the lights because there are a whole bunch more lights now that I need to create this scene. So it's very filmic and it's a whole different way of working. And this collaboration I very much enjoy because it's not only me. I mean, I make most of the decisions, but I really count on everybody's good eye, like on set, to help with little things because I can't see everything. So having the right people around me, a right crew, people I trust, that's really important to me. And so everything changed in that way. And also finding locations and of course the actors or the models that are going to portray the main character, the lead character. And for me, that's really important, is to find that right person. And I think that I excel in that, like in the casting world. And I find people all over the place, on the street, stores, at Home Depot. I mean, I'll go up to anybody if I think that they're right for the character, and I'll approach people and ask them.
Oh my gosh. I know.
And sometimes I get no's.
Sure, I bet.
Sometimes I get yeses, sometimes I get people who are, who the hell are you? And I still get that. Yesterday I went photographing on the beach. I've got a ongoing project that I'm working on here, and I went onto the beach by myself yesterday. And I still get people going, no, 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 no.
Right, right. The beach is a surprisingly vulnerable place for people. But I want to get back to I had a question for you about, you come up with these concepts for, and you've done many of these projects, many collections of images like this. So my question for you is, how do you flesh out the ideas for the images? Because you are the one in control building it. I show up to a wedding, I capture whatever happens in front of my camera. You have to build it. So how do you come up with the concepts for the individual images themselves? I mean, obviously your description of the Rapunzel image right there fits perfectly. It fits in with your life and where you were at that time. But let's go to something like your 10 Commandments project.
Yes.
How do you decide who you're going to choose for something like that and what it is that they're going to be doing in those images?
Yeah, I know. It's like that decision could be really rough because like if I don't make the right choices, like the whole series could be for naught, and it takes me a year or two to create a whole series. So it's really scary. I know it's like, of course, thinking that it might not work out, but I don't even think like that. I just wipe it out of my head. What I try to do is do one piece at a time. So each series usually contains about 10 to 12 images. So I focus on one image at a time, like one. I mean, of course, I've got things in the background, like I'm looking for a prop for Lincoln while I'm about to shoot Truman. Like we're talking about the 10 Commandments, right? So the 10 Commandments was inspired by the election of Donald Trump and kind of our idealistic America falling apart. I mean, it was never ideal. We all know that, but there was some sort of semblance of America as this just great place of opportunity. and diversity. And then you see a man like this coming in and totally destroying this image. And basically, that was a response to him. And then when I started digging in, I learned more and more about each president and what they did while they were in office and their legacy and so on and so forth. So I tried to build scenarios around that were relevant to what's going on in the States now. And I used the format of the 10 Commandments because I felt that there was too much like religious interference with the right and them using and bringing up the Bible constantly in regards to policy and the Constitution. So that's why I put it in that format, because I felt like a lot of the presidents were breaking those commandments and that the commandments were constantly being broken. So I kind of try to fit each president. And I'm not vilifying any of the presidents, but not everybody was perfect. We know that Donald Trump was grossly imperfect, but not everybody else was perfect as well, and that America wasn't and hasn't been a perfect society, just like people idealize it. So my main theme in all of my work is disillusion. Disillusionment. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that people were disillusioned with the United States of America after Trump came in.
So let me ask you a question. Then you obviously have this goal, right? The 10 Commandments, that's the frame of this project that you got
the framework,
here.
Yeah.
So now do you go through them and then try to find a president who fits and then try to find a scenario that fits? Or how does each image come together? Can you walk me through that?
Yes. So that's exactly what I did. Like, I didn't only take presidents that were kind of known for their image, how they look, like tall Abraham Lincoln with a hat. Everybody's going to recognize him. So sure. He's very recognizable. It was hard because not all of them were instantly like, all the presidents that I chose ended up having a distinct look, that I had to recreate. But yeah, they all did kind of something that kind of fell into that commandment or against that commandment. So yeah, so I had to specifically choose the right presidents for that. So then when I find a president and then I take the commandment and then I try to create a story, right? A narrative that will involve a lot of elements, maybe a lot of people, and then in a location that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Most of my locations are outdoors. Not outdoors, more on location rather than studio. So that plays a big part in what I do, because that's like, it's like my second character is the location. Really important.
Right. So I'm sure that, I guess first of all, when new photographers get a camera, they think, I see the photo in my head, I want to take it, it doesn't turn out how I want it. For a project like this that takes years to create, I would love to know how close you get from the image that you have in your head when you first start a project to the final product on a scale from 1 to 100. How close do you get to that initial idea that you had in your head?
Pretty close. I haven't ditched any of my photos because there's so much effort and so many people involved that go into my photos that I just feel like I have to make it work. Like it's got to work. So I think once all the ingredients, like if you have all the elements, like in regards to cooking, I don't know, I'm using that as an analogy. If you've got all the right ingredients and you put love and care into it and they're all come together and it'll become a good meal. But if maybe one of the ingredients is off, like outdated or whatever, it could make us for a stinky meal. So basically you have to get all your ducks in a row, in a sense. Everything has to be really over planned almost to make it come together the way that you want it. But things happen. Oh my gosh, so many things happen. You just have to kind of work through them. For Washington, for instance, I had rented this old age home that had been closed down.
Okay.
Seniors facility. And they gave us 2 hours to shoot in there or something. It was crazy. Like I had to get this whole tableau done with, I think there were 5 people in the shot. And we came, and the area that I wanted to shoot at was full of furniture.
Oh.
Like they had somehow within a week took all the furniture in the whole place and stacked it right on my set.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And when you have like 5 people waiting for you, and these are elderly people, like I cast these people who live in a artist's retirement home.
Wow.
So it's an old age home for artists. And so I had to like bring them all together, and they're elderly people. And so at that point, your head feels like it's about to explode, but then you figure out solution. Like I guess I'm good at figuring things out when things are like at their most stressful. I don't know why, but some people just break down and fall apart. And I don't. I kind of pick myself together. And I mean, I have all these people that I'm responsible for. And so I do for them. I'm like, no, this shoot is going to happen. I'm not sending these people home. It's going to happen somehow. So it took us an hour to move the furniture, and I only had an hour to shoot.
And you made it happen.
And we had to just make it happen.
Wow. I mean, again, that goes back. What I was about to say is that just goes back to the tenacity is what I'm getting from you, is that's how you have to be to have longevity and to make your vision work. Whatever that vision is, you have to have it.
Yeah, you do have to have tenacity, but there are all sorts of characters, and there are all sorts of photographers, and that's why photography is so beautiful, because I could be a really quiet person and make really poetic and beautiful work, really quiet work, or I can do this big, loud, explosive, colorful stuff. So I think like you don't necessarily have to have tenacity. You just have to have tenacity to do what I'm doing. You know, what I do, and bringing together these sets with low budgets, fairly low budgets. I'm competing with film industry here in Vancouver, and with a lot of creatives that are going to the film industry, and a lot of locations that are taken or super expensive and stuff like that. But I think like you just have to be who you are. You don't necessarily have to be like me, but you do have to have some sort of stick with it, kind of mentality. And that's different for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm sure what I had just said might have turned off some people. So thank you for that clarification, for sure. I know that we are right at the end of our time here that we had scheduled. Do you have time for 2 more questions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. I'm always interested because the type of photography that you do, when it comes out of your own head, I don't even want to get into the like amount of second guessing you might have to do just in a single day on set. But as an artist, I'm sure that ideas are just constantly brewing in your mind. Interesting ideas for photo projects. How do you decide what topic wins over another?
Well, I have to feel very strongly about it. Like all of my series were inspired by something that meant something to me. Like Gods of Suburbia, it depicts religious characters. And here I wanted to create a conversation about religion and belief, and the belief system that is made up of the collective. How we see things, how you and I see the image of Jesus, and why we see the image of Jesus in the same way, and how pop culture has contributed to the images of these characters, of these religious characters. And that was really interesting to me. So I dug more into it and tried to understand why it meant so much to me, because I grew up going to a Jewish school with a Jewish education and lots of biblical storytelling. So the belief in the supernatural and in these kind of ancient stories has always been interesting to me. And so then I use that to push me forward and make a decision. So is this a topic that you're going to focus on and spend the next 2 years on? It doesn't mean that much to you. Does that journey, that exploration mean that much to you? And in this case, it did. And then also a trip to India where there's so many gods and there's so much reverence, that too just also added to my inspiration. And after India, I made the decision, absolutely, I'm going to do this series and depict like gods from different cultures.
Yeah. And it's a really, thought-provoking collection of images. It's really interesting to see like where they might be today, what they would look like. And that's really interesting. Have you ever had an idea that you decided not to pursue, but maybe there for a while you were really excited about it?
I have a lot of ideas, but then, like I said, I don't want to do anything that anyone else has done. Mm-hmm. Because to me, it's just kind of a waste of time. I want to do something like new and at least mostly new to the world. And so much has already been done, right? So if I have a good idea, like I'll research it, I'll see maybe someone else has done similar work, or, I'll run it by my friends or by Jonas, my spouse, and kind of get a feel for it. But mostly everything that I choose is really intuitive. Like I just feel like this is it. This is what I have to kind of dive into. It's intuitive, instinctual almost. And I just make the decision. I just say yes.
I had to write that down. I thought sometimes after a long time of doing something, and I've realized this just in hosting the podcast, and now that I'm formulating what I'm about to say, it sounds like a humble brag here, but it's like I've been shooting for several years, and now there's a group of listeners who maybe have questions for me, and I think to myself often like, oh, well, this is like, here's the answer. Like, this is so easy to come by. And I think that that's because, like, for me at this point, it's kind of, as you said, like instinctual. Like now I just know I have the technical ability. Now I just know that that's what needs to happen. And part of me feels like some of the questions that I'm asking you, I'm not doing justice with, because the answers from you are like, you have to feel it. Like this is just like, this can't be answered. This is just something that you have to figure out on your own to be able to do. And that
you have to have your technical
powerful
knowledge too, though. You can't, it can't all be intuitive. You have to have the intuition and the technical knowledge, and the two come together to create special work right. That stands out, work that touches people, that connects with people. So it's not one or the other. It's really like a combination of both. And like if you took me out right now, I could tell you, I don't need a light meter. I could tell you what the exposure is. Like, I know it. I feel it. I feel the light. It's part of me. And if you look at people who love photography and you look at their phones and you just go into their photos, you'll see all these crazy pictures of like things, shadows and colors and things that make no sense to everybody else. But it's just things that we see because we see it, where our eyes are open and therefore we see it.
That was a great explanation. Again, I think you took my jumbled up, terrible question and turned it into something that I know that there's a lesson in there that obviously those listening are going to truly appreciate. So thank you. But my last question here for you, before I let you go, I want you to talk to me about your archive, from musicians, famous faces, your documentary work, travel, and all of these series. You truly have a lot to offer. I mean, like, you've transformed into several different photographers throughout your career, which makes this archive like really interesting to look at. Now, as a wedding photographer, I'm not really familiar with the concept of posting an entire archive. Now, is this every photo that you've ever taken, or is it curated down? Tell me about what the goal is. No, it's
curated. Of course. No, I spent the year going through piles and piles and piles of negatives and picking out the ones that I felt were special or relevant in some sort of way. And now I think we've ended up with almost 3,000, which is not a lot for 30 years of photography when you think about it, because I've spent a lot of my time doing commercial work. Like I wasn't always photographing. I was shooting advertising, I was shooting magazine work and newspaper work, and that kept me busy. So this is kind of the stuff that I did on the weekend, or because I had my camera with me and I saw this picture. And some of them are actually from assignments, like some of the portraits are from assignments. And then the travel, of course, I love to travel. I love different cultures, and I'd love to experience different places and people, and just to soak in the culture. I love that. So I got to do that later with traveling with my artwork, because I was invited to festivals and biennales with my work. So really in the past 10 years, I've done a lot of traveling, and that's just really fun. So, I mean, I'll always have my camera with me, ready to go. Yesterday, I actually pulled out a film camera, and like I told you at the beginning, I went to the beach. And that was different because, of course, you don't have the instant gratification. And of course, I'm nervous about how my film's going to work out.
Oh, really? Full circle.
Yeah, full circle, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think like always be open, always experiment, and be willing to make mistakes, and be willing to just jump in and do it. Just jump in. And of course, people have fear, and fear of failure, fear of not doing the best work you can. But you have to fight that fear. You have to push through it. And on the other side, it could be good, it could be bad. You never know, but at least you did it. At least you moved through it, move through that stuff. Otherwise, you really get stalled. And that's with everything in life, I think, not only photography. It's just a life lesson too. I mean, I view like every day as amazing, because I really feel that we only have one life, and that's it. So if you feel like me, I mean, I don't know how to say this without sounding so gruff, but if you feel like there's another world waiting for you, or another life waiting for you, maybe you kind of have a different attitude about life. But I just feel like this is it, right? This is it. This is now. And so just go for it.
I love it. Was there anything that you were surprised to discover about maybe yourself as a photographer while going through your entire archive, both physical and digital negatives?
I think that it was really fun going down like memory lane and remembering all these shoots. Like I remembered all the details with portraits, and even some street stuff, what my circumstances were at that time. It just brings back a lot of memories. And going back to collect all these images was really good for me, because it just makes me feel like more organized. Like before, I just, like if anything happened to me, I don't think anybody would know what to do with this stuff. I just feel like now I could, not that I'm thinking that anything will happen, but at least it's all organized, and I feel really good that I can leave this legacy like a little more cleaned up and organized, just in case anything happens, or just for the future. And now I can really work on my book in a very concise way, because now that I've collected all these images, I would have never been able to work on a book without doing this process, actually. So, I mean, that's the final result. I really would like to publish a book with all of these works. So, in a sense, I've collected them now, and it's an easier process.
Well, I am excited for when the book comes out. Be sure to take my name and my number. I'm going to give you my credit card information because I want a copy. That's going to be fantastic.
My first customer.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Dina, again, thank you for coming on, being open, being honest, sharing everything that you did, and obviously staying later than we had anticipated. Before I let you go, can you let the listeners know where they can learn more about you and find you online?
Absolutely. So I have a website. It's just my name, DinaGoldstein.com. You can look through the collections that we were talking about today. And there's also an archive tab. You can go into the archive, and it's divided into categories. I think it's pretty easy to navigate. Check that out.
All right, today's action item, being the one thing that if you implement it today will move the needle forward in your photography, is this. Create a mini editorial assignment. Yeah, this should be fun. Assign yourself some sort of mini editorial project. And to do that, you start with picking a theme. Maybe it's your morning routine. Maybe it's local car culture. Maybe it's pets at play, something like that. And then think it out. What are the type of images that would communicate the message that you're trying to say about that thing? What is the goal of your morning routine? What does connection look like in your local car culture? How do people interact when pets are playing? Again, think it out. What would be the images that would communicate what it is that you're trying to say? And then set some sort of constraint. Maybe just shoot 5 to 10 images. And then stick to it. These should be photos that you feel an editor could use for a magazine spread. The images should tell a story. It's not about technical perfection. It's about creating images that can tell a story together. And then give yourself some sort of like a half-day deadline. Like, don't let this grow into this year-long project. Like, just create it. Because this is not about creating earth-shattering work. It's about getting you to see the world photographically and taking action. Because otherwise, you just listen to this whole interview for nothing. Don't do that. Take action. All right, that is it for today. Until next time, remember, the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. Start a conversation. Grow together. That is it for this week. Remember, the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.